Why I believe in marriage in itself, in the wholesome sense. I was thinking about this last night actually. Wholesome in the sense of meaning, when you get bread, and you get wholesome bread. It's got wheat, it's got all the good stuff in it, and it's got chemicals, hopefully, and all that stuff in it. So it's really good bread for you. It's good for your whole entire health and your whole entire family. A wholesome family, people go on about the nuclear family, which I think is more of an atheist view of the family, or maybe not, because it's the mother, the father, and the children. Wholesome in the sense is meaning when the whole family has a boundary around them and they're all protected within that mental boundary. Like the parents know neither of them will go out of that boundary, and the children know they won't go out of the boundary. Most of it is because they just have the common sense and the wisdom to know that stepping out of the boundary will be painful or hurt not only them but others. Like if the mother had an affair, she'd know that it would hurt her husband very much and break his heart, and it would break the children's hearts knowing she'd done it, and also it could split up the family. She could have an abortion. She might not want the child and things like that. The children would be horrified to find out their brother and sister being murdered and stuff like that. So a wholesome family is protected by boundaries and run by values, good values of decency and good ethics. Just good, wholesome people. And that's what I believe in marriage. And that's what I promote. And I believe God's version of heaven on earth would be that, simply because that particular family looks out for itself with love. The toxic family looks out for itself with pride. They say, we're family, we're blood, we'll stick together. And even though they've been really bad people, they think that in their toxicity they are bonded by the physical blood of the physical relationship with each other, having the same mother and father. Therefore, that makes them strong, powerful, and no matter what evil or wrong the other members of the family do, they will all stick together and fight all the way through it. The only trouble is what that does is makes the innocent members of the family guilty as the guiltiest people in the family. So the idea should probably really not to be like that and not do that sort of thing. In the wholesome sense, as a sense, if someone in the family did wrong, the rest would stand by that person and try and help that person. But if it got to the stage where they were unhelpful, then they would go and see the police and they'd have the police sorted out. You've got to love the people that you love enough to do that. It's kind of like with the Beach Boys with Brian and Carl had to get the police, and when Dennis was drinking so much it was and using drugs so much it was destroying him, and they took his money off him in the hope that they could stop him on the path of self-destruction that he was on. And it didn't help in the end because he ended up drowning. I think he drank some whiskey or something before he dived in the water, and he drowned. I think they were moving his boat from the pier to somewhere else, and a necklace or something fell in the water. I can't remember, and he dived in to get it, but he drowned. So, um, which is unfortunate, of course, because you can't control his thinking, but you can step in as a family and try and help the person as best as you can anyway. And if you need the police, then you need the police. If you need the law, you need the law. And you're supposed to love the members of your family so much so that when they need help, whether it's against their will or not, and whether they'll spend time in prison, it doesn't matter. The point is it needs to be done. But I'm going off track a bit. My idea is that if the marriage is wholesome, because I've been through a lot of toxicity in relationships. Some of it was myself from when I grew up in a dysfunctional family, which was toxic, and then I went into relationships with that baggage on my back, and the woman I went into relationships with, they had baggage on their back too. So it just didn't work out. Simply, there are relationships I was in that could have actually worked out if neither of us went into the relationships with the baggage we did. And we had bad habits we got from our parents and things like that. Now, in a wholesome marriage, the man and the wife marry, both knowing each other has baggage. And the healing process is when each other helps each other remove the baggage from each other. And in that sense, you end up with two people with no baggage, with no bad habits. If you're humble enough, if you can see your partner doing something wrong and it's toxic and it's bad, if you're in a completely uninsulting way, you explain to them what's happening, how it's affecting you and the other children. As long as you both know your failures and you make mistakes, you're toxic, you're dysfunctional, then you'll listen. And then you'll say, well, okay, we can work on that. Dale Carnegie had wrote something that was along the lines of, if someone's criticizing you, look for the truth in it, because there might be something in there that you really, I think he says there's always something in there that's real. And even if it's from your greatest enemy, there could be something in there. I spent many years doing that, but then I finally came to a stage where, like with this character assassination, I realized there are people saying things about you that there's no truth in it. So you've got this kind of, you look for the truth in what people say and you learn from it, but then you back off and you say, no, no, I know that's not true. When you know something's not true, there's no need for guilt. There's no need to worry. There's no need to listen to them, no matter who they are in your life. If they're wrong, they're wrong. That's it. And that's where we need to have that fine line of strength and control. In a wholesome family, while you're healing each other and helping each other through what you went through in the past, both of you are discarding baggage at the same time. And while you're discarding baggage, you have children, and the children are seeing two extremely loving parents who hold no remorse, no guilt, no dislike of each other. Neither of them feels weaker than the other. Both are complementing each other, and she might be good at, say, cooking, and he might be good at doing the outside stuff, or even vice versa. And the children say, wow, they're working side by side. Now, when the children leave the home, they're gonna seek that, and they're gonna come across people that are not gonna be like that, and they're gonna say, "Well, now I want somebody who's at my side all the time," and the other person will be like, "You're right weird." So you just keep looking for that, and if you bring your children up like that, your children can see what's beautiful in marriage and relationships, and they can want the same for themselves instead of wanting a toxic relationship today, because no, the young are not told what they can gain from being wholesome. They don't seek it. My mother was always running down wholesome people, good people. She was always calling them snobs, arrogant. They think they're better than us. They're not good as us. Just because we do drugs and alcohol and parties, they're just snobs, and I can't stand them. And she was putting up a wall to defend her um, irrational, self destructive behavior. And the wall was not helping us because we had trouble defining the difference between good and bad and having a good future for ourselves in the future. So we were sort of hearing and listening to what she was saying, observing her and Dad's bad behavior, and then struggling to see where we could have a good relationship from what they were showing us, what they were saying, and what we were feeling inside. So inside, you're sitting there thinking, I want this wife who's faithful and beautiful and wonderful, but your parents, through their toxicity, are steering you in the opposite direction to what your heart wants. So your heart's saying, I want this beautiful relationship, and their toxicity and the alcoholism, the drug abuse, the bad tempers, Dad had an instant bad temper. Their their bad habits that we pick up, and all the stuff we pick up, this is the darkness they install within us. Then we get into a relationship, and that darkness goes into the relationship. And you find, if you're dysfunctional and toxic from your parents, the way your father treated your mother, you'll treat your wife, and you'll be wondering why. I remember yelling at my wife, or instantly blowing up at her, and then thinking to myself, why am I doing this? And there were many times I'd come down here in the room and I'd cry, and I'd sit there very confused. And she might have been wrong many times, my wife, but it wasn't that. It was, I could feel where I was wrong, and I couldn't understand why I was doing things I was doing. And that's when I started getting to the idea that I was carrying on Dad. I just didn't know it. And his bad habits were coming out in my marriage subconsciously. And so therefore they had to be removed from me before I could have a good marriage. But my wife liked the bad habits she had and refused to get rid of them. So while I was becoming a better person, she wasn't. She was enjoying pridefully her bad habits, and then couldn't unsee what was the matter with me. And so therefore, if you have a relationship where you have the man and the woman, they both want to heal, they both want to be good parents, they both want to have a wholesome, loving marriage where they can actually trust each other, have faith in each other, and absolutely know the other wasn't going to muck around or do the dirty on them behind their back. They do this by healing each other and clearing away all the garbage and the rubbish from their upbringing and from their previous relationships. Each relationship you have that's toxic gathers baggage on you. And as in one way they put it as you harden yourself with armor, thick hard armor, and then by the time you end up going into relationships, love can't get out, and anyone giving you love just rebounds off you. And it's like the narcissist. You can go up and hug the narcissist and say, I love you. And the narcissist will hug you back and say, yes, I love you too. But they're thinking, oh, we're going to have sex tonight. I'm going to get sex now. Whereas you're sitting there thinking, this person loves me. I'm just going to maybe cook dinner and make love to them in the most tenderest way possible and stuff like that. It kind of works, but there's always one. It's an unbalanced relationship, and one is always taking more from the other, and in the end, it breaks up because it is toxic. So I believe in wholesome marriage because a wholesome marriage is a marriage that stays together. A wholesome marriage is a marriage that you'll always love, cherish, and be glad you're part of. I've still got a lot of people on the internet where they tell me about their marriages and how good they are and how they trust each other and how they're good to each other and they love God and they want to be the best they can be for God and for each other and then for their children. So everyone is infected with this love and this trust and this wholesome way of being, of living. And I believe that's what a true marriage should be. And it's not, Mum used to say that I got a lot of lessons from her in the negative. Um, Wholesome people were boring. They had no fun. They were not interesting. They were not exciting. And you know, the greatest excitement for me is playing the playground with the kids, or coming home and building something with the children, or making them dinner. I always loved cooking for children and the whole family, even for the wife. And it's the thing that everyone thinks is boring that I enjoyed the most. It always found me confusing with all the women I was with. They all thought what I found is comforting. I think what I mean was I found those things were comforting, insecure. You know, just doing the simple things, playing with the children, going to the beach, stuff like that. It was, to me, comforting and secure and happiness. And the woman I was with all saw that as weird and like it was a trap. And I don't want to do that. I had a friend. I went to. I was still in the oscilloscope, and I was went to um, Cambridge to sell it. And there was this young guy there, and he knocked. I was about 18, and he was going to Polytech, and he wanted to buy it off me. So I talked to him, and he invited me into his house to show me all his electronics and cool stuff. So how to connect up the computers and all this and the stuff he got from the Polytech, from the Waikato Polytech. And this woman came in, and she was like 20 years older than him, a blonde, very hard. And she turned around and I said, they asked me why I had the choice. She said, "Where's your wife?" And I said, "Oh, my wife's left. I've got the children." And she said, "Oh, it's about time. Now you know how it feels." And she spat it out like it was the most dirtiest, unworthy, scungy job on earth, was looking after my children. And I just stared at her like I was completely wrong. I had no idea. And the guy looked at her like this and he looked down like this and he was so ashamed of her. And she strutted out or something and he apologized. He said, "Look, I'm really sorry for that." And I said, "No, no, it's all right. I mean, that's how she feels." And then he admitted to me that he was there like as a toy boy and she was paying his way, paying his him to be through college and all that. And she split up with her husband, got a lot of money out of it, obviously, and was working in some high class job in Cambridge. And he was her boarder, but she was sleeping with him as well to satisfy her ego and age and everything. But she was paying for everything for him, so it was kind of like prostitution. So I felt very sorry for the guy. And he said, "If I don't do this, I can't get through college." And so I never saw him again, but I couldn't have been in a relationship with that woman. So that's how some people see marriage and a wholesome marriage. She saw it as the most horrible experience that a woman could ever go through. And she was so happy to see me suffering that way. Oh, that's what she said. She's something about, now you know what it's like suffering as a woman does or something. And I looked at her and I said, "No, I enjoy it." I said, "It's the most wonderful experience I've ever had." And I'd been doing it for about 3, 4 months at that stage. So she was very upset when she stormed out. And so we have this feminist twist in society, which is really doing a lot of harm to the basic, simple, loving family where the man and the woman love each other and they actually trust each other. Imagine that. I've never had it, and it looks like I'm never going to have it. But the thing for me is, I know it exists, and if I can just get all these people out there to understand that if they can heal each other without therapists, without drugs, without other people's interference, and do it honestly, they'll both come out as beautiful people, beautiful souls who utterly and totally trust and love each other. And the children will gain so much from that. And they too will be like that. And they will seek that kind of gentle, special love from their partners when they grow up. And so that's what I see, and that's what I honestly believe we were born to be. The healers of each other. And I think the reason it says in the Bible that he and she should depart from the parents is because God is saying, no matter how perfect your parents are or how bad they have put toxicity upon you. And while you're with your parents, you can't see it. The only way you can see it is to be broken completely away, like for 4 or 5 years. Every single relationship sounded like with a couple breaking away from the parents, both sides, for like 5 years. And they talked and they got to know each other and they healed each other, listened to each other, comforted and loved each other. At the end of that 5 years, when they saw their parents again, they'd be like different people. And the parents would be like, oh, and if the parents subconsciously or consciously had ways of manipulating their child as an adult, they'd turn around and they'd try it and without thinking, possibly or deliberately, and find they got no response. Because when you do this healing and cleansing, you cleanse away all the toxicity from your parents, and you stand alone with your person you love, but you stand alone. It means you can defend yourself against all relations, all family, all people you knew in the past who had a way of twisting you around their little finger and using you, and you might not have even known. So, that's why I believe in marriage. I believe it's a beautiful way to heal, become new, become strong, become unbreakable, and then to become each other. And in that, after healing each other, knowing each other ever so tenderly and ever so emotionally and ever so beautifully, you wouldn't want to ever be with anyone else, because this person, the person you're with, has completely given you utter freedom in here. Complete and utter freedom from all the trappings and the darkness and the bad people and the manipulation of your past. All gone. And you're free to go, free to stay, free to do whatever you like. But because you owe so much to each other and absolute beautiful love, you'd never want to leave, because that person gave you the freedom from everything that had you in chains in the past. And surely there can't be anything better than that. That's my thoughts. God bless you.